Joining us for a little bit is Caddo Parish Sheriff Steve Prator.
You sent me what I've called a comprehensive crime plan. I don't know what you've called it, about things we need to do now to try to get a handle on crime. First off, tell us why it's lengthy. You can see it at keelnews.com right now. Why you felt compelled to write it, for one.
Well, there doesn't seem to be any crime czar. There doesn't seem to be anybody that's like with COVID. Everybody was clamoring and fighting to be in charge. Is it Homeland Security? Is it the governor's office? Is it the mayor? Is it the parish commission? Everybody wanted to be in charge, and everybody wanted to keep everybody updated and make sure. And we had to handle that, such as it was a major thing like it was, so it took everybody on board. Okay, with violent crime, it seems like we get on board in our little lane, but we don't get in anybody else's lane. And I'm telling you, we got to approach it like this thing that I wrote, like we're a team. Everybody got to work together if we're going to do anything about violent crime.
You list them all, from the district attorney to the mayor to the commission to the school board. Where should we start? Who needs to step up more in a bigger way and do what?
Well, to begin with, and it all falls back, seems to fall in the lap of law enforcement, which is really unfair, because law enforcement, there's a lot of things that happen prior to that. One of the big complaints that I've had and have had for 4 years now is justice reinvestment, and how justice reinvestment, it reduced almost every sentence and holding people accountable, the criminals, the ones that have committed offenses, and it reduced almost every sentence that was given. And so I knew we were going to have some problems, and sure enough, crime has come up since justice reinvestment of 2017. Nobody could argue that. Now, I'm not saying it was because of justice reinvestment. I'm telling you there were violent criminals that were released in justice reinvestment. But who is looking at this? Who's studying it? Where is the deal like with COVID? Who's looking for the vaccine?
And tracking these folks.
And tracking I've just begged the state, because they have the resources and they have the money and they have the information. Research the last 100, 200 homicides in Louisiana, see what the common denominators are. We all know in law enforcement that there's really 4 types of shootings. There's suicides, there's domestics, there's mass shootings, and then there's the run-of-the-day shooting that you report on every day, that street corner violence, those types of things. And that's those are the ones that you can impact the most. They're all serious, but you can impact that everyday common street corner type shooting, and that's the ones that we need to focus on the most while we're trying to figure out the others, sure, but we got to focus on that. And I don't see that. I see us going to the scene, writing the report, turning it over to the DA's office, catching somebody, prosecuting them, they go to jail a little while, they get out and they hurt somebody else. And that's more often than not the case, and we got to do something about that.
There have been concerns too that part of the problem, and Bishop Larry Brandon met with some folks in the hood, as he described it, and said they feel like no one cares about them, that there's nothing for them to do. They feel like they're idle and their neighborhoods are in deplorable condition. That's included in your report too. Explain what concerns you. Well,
I'm interested in things like the school board opening their gymnasiums after school and in summers and on the weekends. Opening their gymnasiums and their buildings up and supplying it with a coach or teachers or somebody to do free tutoring or do coaching, or let kids have a place to go. Now, I don't agree that somebody that shoots somebody is shooting them out of boredom. I'm saying a young kid, if we can give him something to do where he's not exposed to the gang culture, exposed to the streets, and he's given some positive reinforcement, I think we can keep them from doing it. But there's just some people that's going to be bad out there, and those are the ones that we've got to catch them, we got to isolate them, we got to put them in jail. The ones that have shown a propensity for violence, and my main thing that this whole report talks about is the illegal possession of firearms, and that's where I mean, that's what all law enforcement professionals will agree, that you have to address the illegal possession of firearms if you're going to do anything about violent crime.
Is the the political culture of America right now amidst defund the police? Do you really think there is a political will to do any of the things that you've just described?
Well, I mean, of course, I started to say I don't care if there is or not, but I do care because it's impacting us. We're about 65 deputies short. Shreveport's about 100 police officers short, but it's that way all the way across the United States. And that's included in this. Elected officials have to do several things. They have to get behind the police. They have to cut out the rhetoric that the police are the bad guys and the criminals are the poor victims. That crap's got to stop, because that is not the case. Sure, we have law enforcement, and that's included in the report. We have law enforcement that needs to do a better job. Law enforcement that needs, and there are some bad seeds, just like there's some bad radio personalities. There's some bad politicians. There's bad preachers. There's bad in everything. But we do a good job of weeding them out when we can, and we're working hard to do better.